this postseason. We can do an entire feature on it. The first one came game 1 of their series against the Celtics. It was Boston's first loss in a playoff game with a 20-point lead in the play-by-play era. Jalen Brunson had 20 of his 29 in the second half. You figured, well, that'll never happen again. And then it happened again exactly 2 days later in Game 2. The Celtics were up by 20. They lost the game. The Knicks did not lead until there was a minute 59 left in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Celtics 23-6 in the final 8.5 minutes. And then it happened again the other night. The Knicks, for all intents and purposes, had their seasons on the line in Game 3 against the Pacers. They had lost 9 straight playoff games at Indy. They were down by 20 again, and by now, you know the rest. The comeback, third time this postseason, all of them on the road, and that sets up the critical showdown in Game 4 tonight, the kind of game that feels like it will decide the series, right? It will decide whether the Knicks are going to turn this into a 7-game series or Indy is going to close it quickly. And there's a huge storyline. Aaron Nesmith, an ailing ankle. We're not quite sure how bad it is. We turn to Brian Windhorst for that. What, if anything, do we know about Nesmith and his ankle?
He is listed as questionable, Greeny. Rick Carlisle says he'll be a game-time decision. Considering this is the Eastern Conference Finals, you would be surprised if he doesn't play. I think it's more of a question of how much mobility does he have. He is a high-energy, high-speed player, the primary defender on Jalen Brunson. It will be the big thing to watch at the start of this game.
All right, so you made it very clear in our call this morning, Markeith, that this is the conference finals. He's going to play. If he can walk, he's going to play.
For sure.
But let's live in a world where his condition, he just is hampered to whatever degree. He has made life miserable for Jalen Brunson in this series. So if he's not at his best, how does it affect tonight's game?
When you say make life miserable, Jalen Brunson has still have great games.
Yes.
No, Aaron Nesmith have did a great job of just being a pest and being on them. But they had other guys. I mean, quite frankly, nobody's going to stop Jalen Brunson from scoring, but the energy that Nesmith brings offensively and defensively is the key to this game.
He won game 1 basically by himself with all those threes and then the rest of that. How much of a factor, Marcus, I'm trying to get a sense. If Nesmith, A, doesn't play, or B, is obviously not at his best, how much of a factor, how does that affect the game tonight?
I think it definitely has an impact, but Nembhard actually does a great job on Jalen Brunson as well. I think that they have other guys. I think they were scheming a little bit differently, but he definitely has been playing well. He has a lot of length. He's been guarding Jalen Brunson, but let's be frank, none of them guys can really guard him, right? They can be a body, they can be a pest, but it will definitely have impact. The best thing about the Pacers that they go on playing a lot of players and playing deep. So I figure they'd be able to maybe plug somebody in that position and play with
This is where their depth becomes perhaps an advantage. So the Knicks got the huge game from Karl Anthony Towns in Game 3. Jalen Brunson obviously has been their rock. Who do you have your eye on tonight? If the Knicks are going to even up this series, who has to get it done for them tonight, first and foremost?
Again, Cat has to be that guy he was last game. And it can't start in the fourth quarter because it might be too late. They went down 20, and luckily the bench came in, played some good defense. Miles McBride made some good shots, but it can't wait. It has to be Cat from early. From jump ball, it has to be Jalen from jump ball. They have to attack the game. But not only that, this series has been not how you start, it's how you finish. So whichever one of those guys play well, the team has to finish the game for them to be able to win this game.
It's a bizarre thing. We can put the numbers up on the screen for you here. I don't really know how to interpret these. The Knicks are very good when Karl Anthony Towns is playing, and they're very good when Jalen Brunson is playing, and they're very bad when they're both playing. Those are their plus-minus numbers in these Eastern Conference Finals. Again, plus 15 with just Cat, plus 10 with just Brunson, minus 20 when the two of them are together. Does that help me make sense of this, Marcus? Does it make any sense? What does that mean?
I mean, it's just one of those analytical things, right? But we can't say that the team are better when they're both off the court or one is on the court, right? They're a great tandem.
I can explain it.
I think they just haven't figured out how to actually make it into a play.
Windman, go.
Defensively, the Pacers isolate and attack Towns and Brunson. It has been their game plan throughout this series, and will continue to be their game plan. And while, during the regular season, Brunson and Towns are so awesome offensively, it can overwhelm it. In a playoff setting, when the game slows down, the Pacers are able to victimize them on the defensive end. And so what's basically happened is when one of them defends and the other one's on the bench, they are a much more dynamic defensive team. The Pacers flat out came out and said this. The thing that they weren't ready for was that they played better defensive lineups. The other thing is they discovered in this game 3 that when they isolate Cat, they found a weak spot in the Pacers roster. You talk about depth. A weak spot in the Pacers roster is their backup center position. They lost 2 backup centers to Achilles tears this year, and when they isolate Miles Turner, their starter with Cat, he victimized him. So I would expect tonight to see more of those guys playing by themselves out there, what's called the stagger, bigger stagger numbers for those two.
All right,
which is true. Sorry.
Very quick, go.
Which is true. But the Indiana Pacers aren't an ISO-based team. Let's be clear. Like, if they're trying to do that, they should have lost. They should be 2-1 right now. Like, what they're doing is, it's not technically saying it's working because they don't have ISO-based team. They play fast, they play in transition, and they move the ball. So I'm not sure if that's actually the game plan.
All right, I'm going to come back to that. There's obviously a lot more there, and we'll dive into it as we go. Meanwhile, back.
1 assist after scoring just 4 points through the first 3 quarters of the game. And that is as many points, rebound, and assists as the entire Pacers team had in the fourth quarter. The skies, they have returned to being orange and blue, even though it's a little chilly here in Target Center. Stephen A. Smith, I was thinking of you as I was watching the end of this game.
Well, listen, here's the deal. I'm very ecstatic that the New York Knicks were able to overcome a 20-point deficit that they were suffering from in the first half. I didn't like the way they looked. I didn't like that Jalen Brunson had 4 fouls in the first half. I didn't like that him and Karl Anthony Towns was in foul trouble, okay? I didn't like it at all, but Karl Anthony Towns answered the call in the fourth quarter. Got to give credit where credit's due. Tom Thibodeau, although forced to, used his bench. I was very, very happy about that. Jalen Brunson, key basket down the stretch, not to mention all 10 of his free throws he made. The New York Knicks, 15 of 16 free throws in the fourth quarter. 10 of 10 at clutch time. 6 of 6 over the last 20 seconds or so. They closed the deal. But let me caution them in this. Indiana has lost game 3 in every series. And then they've come back and won games 4 and 5. They could easily do that again if the New York Knicks don't play better. You can't have those brothers in foul trouble. You can't be subpar offensively. You've got to sense the moment and understand who you're going up against with Indiana. Nesmith getting hurt didn't hurt the Knicks. Didn't hurt them at all. All of those things are not things you have to concern yourself with in game 4. Indiana is going to be ready. The objective is to tie the series, reclaim home court advantage, okay? Handle your business. That was one step. It was really, really nice. But you got more work to do.
Okay, before I comment, you said during the break you're wearing thermal underwear.
I'm having trouble.
I know we're supposed to be talking about that. Malika's doing fine.
She was shivering. Okay. She was shivering.
I got comments on the thermal status.
Okay,
She was
I had to get that off my chest.
I carried the thermal underwear.
Talk about
damn right I got them on. I got them on right now, and I feel very comfortable.
Okay. Listen. I love the fact that they Knicks fought. I texted you at halftime. I said, can you talk to the team? At halftime.
You texted me at halftime. I said, I already made my hotel reservation. That's what I said. That's what you said.
A lot of people are thinking the same way. But credit to Karl Anthony Towns. Thibodeau's taken a lot of heat. He did change things. And by the way, why would Thibodeau change things after game 1? They basically had that game 1, which you have changed things after that loss. Because that was a game they were up big. And that's my question for you, because everybody said Thibodeau should have done this or that. I thought he did the right thing game 2, because game 2, if you're coaching, what are you saying? Aren't you saying, like, that kind of worked? We just blew it at the end.
There's no doubt. Game 1 they had in the bag until they didn't. Until Nesmith went nuclear in the Garden. But to me, the story of game 3, we talk about Cat in the fourth quarter. New York, best and most complete defensive game in the series.
Yep.
I've been talking about three-point defense all along.
Right.
Indiana only made 5 threes in game 3.
Sure.
5 threes in the fourth quarter, only 1 of 8 from the three-point line. If they can replicate that come game 4, they're going to give themselves a chance.
But Rick Carlisle said after the game that it was partly a product of the fact that they staggered, even if it had to be because of the fouls, the minutes of Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, who aren't necessarily their strongest defenders. If they're not forced to do that again, it was sort of that they were forced to make that decision, Perk. It wasn't necessarily all schematic.
Well, they don't even matter no more because Wright, Salmon, they earn minutes. They're going to play in game 4. Believe that. Their energy and Deuce McBride was contagious. In the first half, I swear I thought the Knicks were dead bird, tall grass. And then all of a sudden, the bench came and gave them some type of life support. And then we saw Karl Anthony Towns in the fourth quarter become a Knick. And it was so contagious that I saw OG Anunoby defend Neesmith on the baseline. Not only did he block his shot, but he did it with force and was talking noise. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is one of those moments. This is one of those wins that bring the unit back together again, right? And I saw togetherness last night. And when I'm looking at the Knicks, I'm saying to myself, they have all the momentum because Big Bradley Brunson is not going to shoot 6 for 18 from the field again. I'm expecting him to have his moment in Game 4. Last but not least, can we stop all this nonsense? Not us up here. Can we stop? Jalen Brunson would never be benched. He is a superstar. No. This is the word around. I'm talking to other crazy people.
The streets are talking.
He would never be benched, man. He's a superstar.
Okay. Let's not give any shine to the idiot trolls out there who would mention such a thing, thinking that Jalen Brunson's going to get benched. Of course he's not getting benched, especially with the New York Knicks because he is their offense most of the time. That is not going to happen. Outside of that, if y'all see me bopping and weaving and all of that other stuff, it's not just because the New York Knicks won, but one of my favorite songs, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. That was rocking and blazing. I mean, we like that stuff. So we like that, you know what I'm saying? We go flow with it. At the end of the day, it's orange and blue skies, baby, right now. But that does not mean that's going to happen in Game 4. They got to answer the call and come with the same level of urgency as they did in the fourth quarter of Game 3. Otherwise, they're going home before a 7th game. It's not going past 6.
That matchup, Karl Anthony Towns, Miles Turner, right? People are saying what adjustments should Rick Carlisle do to contain Karl Anthony Towns? What would you do?
Well, what I loved watching Cat in that fourth quarter was the aggression. I mean, Miles Turner's a hell of a defender. He can block shots. Karl had him on the perimeter. After all that, he was putting the ball on the floor, getting to the rim. Stephen A. touched on. They got to the foul line 16 times in the fourth quarter because they attacked. They flipped the script on the Pacers. Indiana's got to get back to playing their brand of basketball.
Well, one piece of good news for the Halliburton family here. John Halliburton, Tyrese's father, he is going to be back in the building, according to our Shams Charania, for this Game 4.
He served his time.
Absolutely. Since April 29th, that altercation with Giannis Antetokounmpo, he is going to be back for home games.
Let's make sure you don't.
Thanks for watching. You're tuned into the ES3N network. We appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a drop. Got thoughts or theories? Drop them in the comments. We read them all. Share this video to help keep important stories alive. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, there's always more to the story. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. But stay tuned. Coming up next, I'll be adding even more value by showing you exactly how to get started with your knitting journey.